Mhm.
Got it.
Hello, and welcome to the Literary Arts Building Professional Pathways session. This session is part of Hamilton Arts Council's Professional Development Series for 2021. Hamilton Arts Council serves arts communities within the Greater Hamilton area, including Ancaster, Dundas, Flamborough, Glanbrook, Hamilton, Stony Creek, Waterdown, and Six Nations of the Grand River. This area is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We envision a dynamic arts community that is innovative, impactful, diverse, and professionally sustainable. I hope you've had an opportunity to explore all of the upcoming and past professional development sessions between October and December in 2021. You can find these via our website, www.hamiltonartscouncil.ca. Click Programs and then Professional Development. All sessions are free to attend and presented in partnership with the City of Hamilton's Tourism and Culture Division. At this point, I'm going to invite today's presenter to introduce themselves and get us going.
Everyone for joining. My name is Janet Rogers. I'm Mohawk Tuscarora, living and working on my traditional lands of Six Nations of the Grand River, where I operate Ojistah Publishing. So I'm a brand new publisher, and I'm a writer. I have been writing for, over 15 years, if not more, and working full-time as a writer. And that includes a lot of things: the editing, presenting, readings, mentoring, teaching, so on and so forth. So that's how I make a living as a writer. And so today, it's wonderful to be able to have the opportunity to share my experiences and, tips, if you will, for those who are looking to become professional writers or who are moving in that trajectory towards becoming a career writer. There's a lot of things to know. So I thought we would go through today how it will be set up is I'm basically going to chat to you about different aspects of building one's career as a writer, and feel free. I think what we're going to do, I think usually the usual way to go is you save the questions till last, but I'm going to invite those questions to come throughout our session over the next hour, so that we can kind of like really have a discussion, a back and forth about what it is that is interesting you as a person who's participating today, and we can just tackle those things as they come up. So the first thing that I want to share with you and talk about is the content. So, there's a whole ecosystem, if you will, that supports our writing communities. And because it really does take a community to produce a writer. And what I mean by that is there is the singular act of writing itself, which is a very distinct activity, which could look like you sequestered in a dark, dim room with lots of full cigarette ashtrays or what have you, as the writers used to do, and just, kind of toiling away with your muse. I hope I'm painting this dark picture. Anyway, I'm kidding. All good writing doesn't come from doom. Good writing can come from a number of different places. But there's that distinct act of writing and feeling inspired and organizing your thoughts and doing the research, which I am a big fan of talking about the research aspect of that's involved in writing as well, or just the number of drafts that go into conveying what one wants to convey in their writing. And then there's another distinct act, and that is the presenting of the writing, which I don't think we'll talk about today unless you want to. But I just wanted to make that distinction between the act of writing and the act of presenting, because those two things are absolutely very necessary in the development of a writer. And that's much to the dismay of some writers when they hear and they understand that, oh my God, I have to get out there and present this stuff now. Yes, you do. Because oftentimes, unless you are being promoted as a genius, you really have to kind of sell yourself. And that we go about that in a number of different ways, and we'll get around to that as well. But let me just see what I've got here. So I hope folks understand that first and foremost, if you're, depending on what you're writing is, the canon with which you're writing within, it's really, it creates strong writing when you are focused on writing that comes from your own perspective. It's, yes, we can be creative historical writers or creative nonfiction writers about other things, but and I say this because it has come up a lot in the Indigenous literary communities, where we want to hear from you. We want to hear what your relationship is to the work that you're producing. It makes for strong writing. It really does. It gives the reader a better understanding of why you are writing what you're writing, and that you yourself are somewhat of an expert in what you're presenting. And there's just a depth of comprehension that goes along when you write in that way. So I urge you, I'm not saying don't do the other thing, don't do the research, don't write about things that aren't part of your life. I'm just urging you to consider the idea of writing from your perspective, writing about your relationship with whatever it is that you're writing about. And I think that might be an easier go when we are writing in poetry, but it becomes a little bit more muddy when we are writing in fiction or like I said, creative nonfiction, historical fiction, that sort of thing. Keep it with you. I guess that's the bottom line I'm trying to say. I want to hear what it is that you have to say, and from your perspective and what your relationship is. It really, really just does make stronger writing. It really does. And then look at what you have. If your goal, for example, is to publish, then get your collection together. Have a look at it. Print it. Lay it out on your living room rug. Have a good look at it. Look at the physicality of what you've produced in terms of, writing over a number of years, or looking at that novel. And even if you haven't touched that novel in 12 years and you think, but you still believe in it and you still love it, then, give it a life, give it a body, and print it and have a look at it. And this is important because it takes it off of the screen, and it gives you something to hold in your hands, and it gives you something that you can actually mark on to create your edits. And edits is the next thing I really want to kind of go on about. Edits are absolutely necessary. I'm going to quote a great writing mentor of mine, Gary Gottfredson, who lives in north of Kamloops area. And he's a poet, and he attended, what was that hippie school in San Francisco, or was it Colorado or something? It was a hippie writing school. Not Jack Kerouac, one of those beat guys. They had a school of writing. Anyway, he came away with this gem that I'll share with you now, and that is, there are no great writers. There are only great editors. And that's a little bit ouch. It makes you feel ouch. What do you mean by that? But that is just to say, do not be afraid of editing. Embrace the editing, because it always is the goal, just to serve the writing. It has nothing to do with you personally, if I could say that. It's all about serving the writing and being able to produce the best that you can to put out into the world, because it does it. And in the end, of course, it will reflect on you. It will represent you in the end, at the end of the day. But having, if you approach your writing and the development of any kind of collection that you have with that notion that editing is only going to make it better, then the editing process does become easier. And we oftentimes, in the safe way, we share our writing with our family and friends, which is fine. But who are they? Are your family and friends professional writers? Do they have any experience in editing? If not, then you might want to look beyond that. And we were just talking about, before going on screen here, we were talking about the position I held recently as a writer in residence at McMaster University. And if you are, if I'm assuming I'm talking to people within the Hamilton region, this is a shared position between McMaster English and Studies and the Hamilton Public Library. And that person who holds that position is there to serve you, the public, the Hamilton public, in terms of providing feedback for your writing. And that was one of the duties that I enjoyed the most in that position, was booking those consultations, meeting the writers, having long discussions, either by phone or email or Zoom, about their writing and what they were writing. And it just became so interesting. There was a lot of science fiction I had the pleasure of reviewing, and of course poetry, and just the whole gamut. It was really, really great to see who's writing what out there. And it was really, really interesting. Ghost stories, I love them. It was really fun. So you have that resource at your availability. So, but also, check your local library. As David was saying at the top of our meeting, that this Hamilton Arts Council covers a number of different regions. I don't know what you would, if you read cities, little cities, Stony Creek and, Ancaster and things like this. And wherever you happen to be, check in with your local library to see if they in fact have a writing group. Sometimes there are these writing groups that exist that you're not aware of. As I found out during my time as writer in residence, that, some people who were contacting me, they said, oh yes, I attend a weekly writing group as well. And if not, think about creating a writing group online. It's easy to do that. A while ago, we just finished our meetings, but I too, as someone who is a career writer, was attending a weekly writing group. And this was a group that was based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, because I know a lot of people out there. I have some art family out there, and got invited into this weekly writing group, and we would meet on Wednesdays. And it was really, really inspirational. And as you probably have heard, if you are a career-minded writer, that the writing is a muscle, that it's that writing muscle. And the more you exercise it, the stronger it will become. So any opportunity that you can find or create to be inspired to keep producing new writing is really going to benefit you. And so again, look for those writing groups, start a writing group, join a writing group, and go at it like that. And, find the right group for you. So maybe, that's, I think, important too. If you can find really like-minded writers to go about things.
I was going to ask a question, Janet, actually,
Sure.
around the idea of feedback. And is there a way to approach that? Should we be approaching people and looking for specific feedback, or are you just turning over work and saying, hey, what do you think?
Right. Great question. There was, I had the whole kind of span of approaches coming to me during my time as writer in residence. So some people had very specific questions when they brought their writing to me. Do you think it's clear enough? Do you think it's too long? What do in sort of things like this? What do you think of these characters? Are they, realistic or what have you? And so you may already know what you want to know about your writing, or you may be wide open. to the feedback. And just remember, it's anything that a reviewer will bring to you, take it as a suggestion. You find your voice as a writer by writing. And if you believe in your voice and you're happy with your voice, then maybe you don't need to change much. And a reviewer is going to just give you, like, they're going to be bringing all of their own, life experiences and perspectives and things like that to your work. So do take things with a grain of salt. Act on the advice that resonates with you. And again, that's going to serve your story or your collection of poems, what have you. And just keep that as a touchstone. Anything, any kind of feedback, any kind of reaction to your work, to your writing, it needs to serve the work to its best potential. And that's just how I always kind of think about it. And again, it's not personal, and we can't be too precious. Yes, we want to, feel like, writers oftentimes call our books or our work our babies. And I certainly have done that, referencing, like, I have 7 books and all different publishers. So I say I have 7 different baby daddies. But that's, because you're birthing a thing into the world that, will grow legs, hopefully, and walk away on its own and do its own thing. So yeah, I mean, it's personal, but at the same time, keep in mind, you're there as a vessel to serve the writing, and just keep it like that. And then you won't get caught up in all of this, like, ego kind of centered pushback on all of the feedback you get. And, that happens, but that happens sometimes too. So yeah, use your own discretion. Empower yourself. I always say that, empower yourself with that feedback as well. Does that sound right to you? Maybe it doesn't sound right to you. Does that apply? Maybe it doesn't apply. Just keep asking yourself those questions. And again, when people were coming to me with their work, just again, staying with the content, some writers they're coming at me from different stages of their process. And sometimes it was like, I have a trilogy. And I'd be like, whoa, like, don't worry about the trilogy. Have you got a paragraph written? Not yet. Well, maybe you want to start there, but yes, it's lovely to dream. It's lovely to visualize, but the work of writing is writing, getting that pen on the page, getting your fingers to the keyboard. You're not a writer unless you write. People could talk about writing all day long. That doesn't make you a writer. You have to write. So make sure you have content, before you start coming out into the world and saying, I'm a writer. But again, you can empower yourself just by the simple act of writing. So starting with starting small as a way not to overwhelm yourself. And again, if you're going to start to show your work around to family or friends, again, make sure it's edited work, make sure that it's polished, it's the best that it can be, and then start to send it out. And remember, it's sometimes we never know when the work is finished. Like, it could just keep going through drafts and drafts and drafts. But depending on what your goal is. I'm speaking of publishing as if it is the be all end all goal, but it really isn't. There's different ways of publishing, and there's different ways of being a writer. So I don't want you to get kind of fixated on the idea of publishing, but publishing does create careers if that's what you wish. So just keep in mind, there's different ways of being a writer if you're looking to be a career writer. And feel free to ask questions throughout. So I think that covers, right. One more thing I just want to say about it, when you do get to the point where you have a collection and you are looking for it to tell you what it wants to be, look for those themes in your writing. They will show themselves, and maybe it's the case of taking your 60 pieces of poetry, lying them out on, again, your living room carpet, and creating little piles of pieces that kind of go together, so that you can see where the themes are. And this is beneficial because it will help inform who you send your work to, so that you'll have a better understanding of what you're actually saying. When you're in it, when you're producing it, sometimes that eludes you. It's hard to see, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I was talking about water so much. Or I didn't realize I was talking about, intergenerational trauma so much, or what have you. So when you take the time and, you have those pieces in front of you, it makes it easier to kind of recognize themes or different areas of the collection that speak louder than others. And maybe, again, that too is a way to edit the collection. It's like, oh, these pieces don't even go with this collection. I need to just kind of like scoot them aside for now and just focus on this because this is stronger. So, it really helps to understand your own self. And again, I think understanding yourself and keeping the perspective with you is a really good way to start, rather than trying to sound like somebody else or, another writer that you admire or what have you. I hope that makes sense. Just, again, just empower yourself with that part of the process. Any questions so far? Everybody's good. Okay, we're going to carry on. Now, we did talk a little bit about editing, where if you are looking for outside, again, another place to look for editing advice from outside of your family and friends, circle of families and friends, is to go, how many people are part of the members of the Writers Union of Canada? Or TWAC as they're called. Okay, good. There's memberships, and those memberships cost money. Sometimes writers can afford them one year and they can't afford the membership the next year or what have you. But once you're in, the resources are really quite interesting. You can reach out to their executive directors or their programming agents and ask questions such as who's out there for who can edit. Are there editing circles? Just make those inquiries. And other writers who kind of work in professional ways make great editors too. And again, keep in mind the genre with which you're writing in, and reach out to other writers who work in that same genre, because that's going to be your best bet. And they may have fees. They may be open to trades. They may be available for different sessions or present workshops that are available through the Writers Union of Canada. So that's just a really good resource. It's a national membership. So wonderful place to connect with other writing communities, so keep that in mind. There's also, if you're a poet, there's the League of Canadian Poets. And they too have memberships, and really poetry specific. They share lots of wonderful calls for submissions, great center for resources, opportunities, and registration. So you become part of this registry of poets, and they also have opportunities for working in schools if that's what you wish to do. Presenting workshops and things in schools. They have that kind of link. They can link you up with that. And also other publishing online on their websites and their social media sites. You have opportunities to get published on those platforms with them, which are valid publishing, opportunities. And then here's the one that I wanted to share, which I wasn't aware of. David, I'm going to try to share my screen. I always get messed up when I try to do this, but let me try it.
That's fine.
Let me just try it. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and go share screen. Now, can we see that?
We can see that. Yep.
Oh, okay. Hallelujah. So I wasn't aware that there was an Ontario Poetry Society, and like this looks like a really old website, like the format is really old, but it's updated because as you scroll through, they have these, the world around us in 2021, they have like updated contests. And this is another place where you can, submit your work. And we're going to get into that discussion too. So again, if you work in poetry, here's this amazing Ontario-centered resource that, again, I wasn't aware of. But it seems like a good hub. And it depends, again, if you're a poet, if you're a student, then there's going to be different resources there. And I'm not really, aware of all of those resources, but I know when I was the writer in residence at McMaster that there was a writing group and a couple of writing groups. One was like the Tower or something, which was a well-established group of writers in Hamilton who were
the Tower Poetry Society, or
there you go. Yeah, there you go. And they were celebrating a milestone in their membership. Was it 50 years or something?
Yes, something like that.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. So, this is again, the difference between, the act of writing, which is a singular solitary act usually, compared to the necessity of connecting with other writers. Like it really is necessary that you get out into community, you're aware of who the writing community is, and that you connect. And because it's like there's no greater value than having opportunities to rub shoulders with other writers, being in those sorts of scenarios. And that's where it becomes important to also, if there's writing festivals, attend those writing festivals, because that's where the publishers go as well. That's where the other writers go as well. Meet the writers, meet your heroes. I find, generally speaking, that the writing communities are very, very supportive of one another and very open to share what it is that is necessary to get ahead in this writing game, if you will. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you that. I'll stop sharing now. Oh, how do I do that? Oh, stop sharing. Here we go.
Yeah, great. Great job.
That was my technology, the technology portion of this meeting. Right. So, and then as you're preparing your work to go out there, do your best to accumulate writing credits. And that is, you can approach the literary journals that already exist. You can submit to anthologies. And again, make sure that what you're applying to or sending your work out to, your work fits into them and vice versa. So if you have a lovely collection of 10 poems about tree planting or what have you, don't send it to the Alberta, for example, the oil magazine of Alberta. You know what I mean? Like just find the right match. And it could be as general as a woman's magazine if you identify as a woman writer. It could be as general as a senior magazine if you're a senior writer. It could be really quite as general as that. Just find those avenues that really fit who you are and that fit your writing as well. Find the appropriate place to send your work. Don't just start sending out willy-nilly, because that's going to waste your time. So yeah, find the best possible avenues where your work will have the best possible success at being received. That's my advice there. And that way you start to build your resume of publishing credits, because if and when you do start to approach those publishers, that's what they're going to look for. It's like, why should I read your stuff? Oh, it was published in this journal? Wonderful. Oh, you had a short story published in the other thing? Great. They're going to see that you're out there and you're sending your work out there. And they want to know that other publishers have taken a chance on you as well. because the publishing, thing is really a business. So again, keep that in mind. We are working as the writers. We're working. Our commodity is blood, sweat, and tears, and emotion and experience. But the publishing side of things is dollars and cents. So just remember that there's a bridge there that we have to try to traverse to meet our needs as a writer. And just keep it in mind. And again, don't take things so personally. Like, there will be the right fit. There will be. It's a big world. It's a big writing community, and there is going to be something there for everybody. There really is. Trust me. So just keep, sending your work out there, and then of course you have to document those places that say yes, so that you start your literary CV and get that going. How many folks have their bio at the ready? Their biography at the ready to send out, because this is part of your package as well, that will fit into that literary CV, your bio, and then an intro letter. And that intro letter, you're answering 3 things in an intro letter. You're answering, who are you? What's your book about? And why are you the best person to write this book? And number 4, possibly why now? So you want to answer those 4 questions in your intro letter. No more, no less. Don't go on and on. They don't have time. And that's the same if you're approaching an agent, although I don't recommend an agent at early stages of our career. This is another workshop, trust me. But if you're sending work out, even to the journals, if you just have that kind of stock thing ready to go, that stock document ready to go, it makes it easier. Have your bio, have your CV, and have your intro letter. And of course, your work samples. Those are the things that you just kind of want to have all together in maybe it's a folder that exists on your desktop, and just have that thing ready to go when you start to do your research about who's out there, who's receiving work at this time. And then that way, it just makes it easier. Dedicate a day out of your week to start to collect the names of publishers and publications that are receiving work, and just go about it like that. But make sure that the work that you are going to send out to them, so your work samples are really going to be the most polished, the best that you can send. Send your best, make sure that you feel really confident. It's like, yeah, I want people to put eyes on this because it's worth it. And I also find it's good to address, let's see from Diana what she says here. I also find it's good to address the cover letter to the editor by name if possible. Absolutely. Yes. And again, if we are able to rejoin the world in person again for these festivals, and you do happen to have a conversation with a publisher or even a festival coordinator, write that into your letter as well. Hey, it was wonderful to meet you. Wonderful to have that short discussion. I don't know if you remember me. I was the one wearing the flower, in my hair or whatever. And, go at it like that so that, they can remember. If you can imagine, publishers get a lot of communications all day long. So distinguish yourself in some way. Make yourself stand out in whatever way you can. And maybe it's like some kind of a signatory that you put on your CV, or an image or graphic of some sort that goes on your cover letter, that sort of thing. Make yourself stand out. Give yourself the best possible chance to be responded to, because you're worth it. Absolutely. Any questions?
I was going to, I didn't realize I was unmuted. Sorry if you heard me grunting and moaning as we went along. I want to ask about, in terms of representing yourself, you're having a website, having social media pieces like that. Does that play a part of this period that you're talking about here with outreach? Do I need a place to send people back to find out more about me? Is that part of that?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. And as a matter of fact, that's the easiest thing to do. Thanks for bringing that up, David. I mean, that's really the easiest thing to do, is just to get an Instagram account, join Twitter, on the FB, on the Facebook, like do all that stuff. And it's easy, it's free. It doesn't cost anything but your time. And oftentimes a publisher will ask that, if when they're considering to take you on, they'll want to know what your presence is on those social medias, because it helps them, and that will be an expectation sometimes on behalf of the publisher, is that they expect you to work that social media on their behalf to get the work out there. But I don't know if people recall, there was like this really interesting story about, and I think this person was in Ontario, an anonymous poet that started to post short little poems on the Instagram, and they just became so popular. I don't know how they got their following, but their following was huge, and people love these little vignette type of poems that this poet was posting. And he did it anonymously, because he just didn't want it. He wasn't sure. He was insecure about his writing and things like this. But it really took off, so much so that a publisher, took them on. And he wanted to remain anonymous, even in the publishing. And when he would go to read in public, when his book was published, he would wear like a cover of some sort. So he didn't want to be known. And even his sister didn't know who it was. There was a whole story, I think, in the Globe and Mail about it. But yes, you can get, those are opportunities to have eyes on your work, and to, you are representing your writing, like your profile is representing your writing. So yeah, again, there's another place where you can just say, hey, here I am, here's some work. What do you think of that? And I see that happening. And again, this is where the whole digital aspect of publishing comes into play. And I say, the print book is not the be all end all. And I do love it. I think that the print book will never go out of fashion or need, because it's almost like the radio. We have all these different ways to consume audio content now, but the radio is a staple. It's in the car, it's at the home, and it's online now. But the book, I think, is going to stick around. But there are ways now where you can record your writing. It becomes digital media content. So you're writing your poem and you record it, and then you have a page on the SoundCloud or the Reverb Nation or whatever audio program it is. And there you go. You share that digital content around. You share it on the Twitter. You share it on the wherever, FB or what have you. And that's another way to go about it. And that put that into your CV, because the publishers would love to see that. Oh, really? You're active in the media as well? Yes, you are. You are all these things, And again, it's because if we have a computer, you can do these things. Like you can, if you have a telephone, they call it a telephone. You have the means to create this kind of content, and it broadens your readership or your listenership or whatever you want to call it there. So thanks for that question. I love to talk about that, because it's it's fun. It just kind of expands the ways in which our work can get known and seen. Yeah. Any other questions about that? So, and then again, that goes on your CV as well. So you're building your CV in that way. It's really like self-producing that stuff. Brickyard Books or Brick Books has a media page that you can make an application to. Again, if they're more into their poetry, but maybe it's stories too, I'm not sure, where they just feature recorded poems, recorded writing. So look for Brick Books, and that digital imprint, if you will, is called Brickyard, and they're always accepting content there, if that's what you are looking to do, if you're so inclined. Geez, we're like blazing through these topics here. Intro letter. Yep, we already did that. We did that. And yeah, self-publishing compared to publishing with a publishing house. Anyone here who has self-published? I can't see everybody actually, but so I don't know if people have their hands up here. Let me see if I can get everybody on the screen.
There are no hands up currently,
Oh,
Janet.
there's no hands up. Okay, that's good to know. I'm just going to get rid of this chat so I can see. There we go. Self-publishing is considered to be a valid form of publishing by the Writers Union of Canada, by funding agencies, and we're going to talk about grants in a bit, and other places, as long as the what you produce is meant for resale in public. That's the criteria. So we could self-publish all day long and hand out, our chapbooks to our friends and our family, but it's not considered legit self-publishing unless it's got an ISBN or it's meant for resale. I didn't make these rules. I don't know if I agree with the rules, but whatever, that's just what, the national literary bodies are telling us. So, which gives it a bit of I don't mind that criteria. It's okay. It's just, who's taking on self-published books? Not a whole lot of bookstores. So that's where, you're really going to have the hustle to promote yourself and to let others, you have to let other people know that the book exists, because you're never going to hear, people coming to your door. Hi, have you got a self-published book for me? It doesn't happen that way. So you do have to get out there and hustle, get out there and do public readings and bring that self-published book with you, or create a whole website for yourself. Basically, that's how I started. I started creating little chapbooks for myself. They were like 10 pages long. I would go to open mics, and before I became a featured reader, and I would go sign up for the open mic. I'd take my little chapbooks with me, and to my great surprise and delight, people would actually take $5 out of their pocket to buy my chapbook, and that was very, very encouraging. This is way back in the day, but that's how you kind of create a presence for yourself. You have to let people know you exist. That's the thing. And you have to, you do it, find your way of doing that and feeling good about that. It's just, it's part of it. I just have to say that. And so yeah, you can do the digital publishing, you can do the print publishing, go at it that way. And again, I'm going to encourage you to get out in community, find community, create community, because that's going to be your best resource, is other writers. Because other writers may know the right publisher for you. Other writers may know, the best editor for you, that sort of thing. And even if it's an online community, that's fine. That's fine, man. You have other people to ask questions to. That's what I'm saying. And then the whole grants. Okay, we want to talk a little bit about grants. The grant will afford you time to develop the work. The grant may afford you the ability to pay a seasoned editor to look at your work. Yes, Ontario Arts Council, for sure. There's nothing, David, there's nothing in Hamilton. Hamilton, what kind of support does Hamilton have?
I'm looking at the Hamilton Community Foundation. They have grants and they have awards. Specifically, they're going to be attributed to organizations, or they're going to be attributed to groups who identify as being a registered charity. But one of the pieces that you can do is approach an organization like Hamilton Arts Council and say, I have this project, here's what I'm working on, here's the impact and the benefits. Would you work with me on this application, potentially as a fiscal kind of partner or overseer? So that's certainly an option in Hamilton.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. And, we're very, very, very fortunate in Canada that we have so many granting opportunities for artists. I'm very critical about Canada being an Indigenous person, you can imagine. But when it comes to, the funding bodies that are out there, there's plenty. So, take advantage. The money's there, access it and build your writing in that way. I was recently on a Canada Council jury. Well, not recently, at the beginning of the year. So, my name will have been published already. I'm not saying something I shouldn't. And it was just it was an Indigenous arts program. It was a arts program for the general public for new artists. And like 90% of those applications were writing projects. Imagine, so again, that was an interesting process just to see who's all out there working on things. And I think the pandemic had a lot to do with that too. It's like, oh, really? I get to stay home? Guess what? I'm going to finish that writing project I started, 10 years ago or whatever.
I would certainly advocate in this moment as well for both Ontario Arts Council and Canada Council for the Arts. If you don't have a profile to access the online portals, because that's really where the information lies, then create one, even if you're not looking to apply right now. Canada Council specifically, they have funding available for more training, for research, for actual just development of your craft. So those are available. I'll post the links in the chat.
Yeah, and they support, with mentors as well. So keep that in mind if that's something that you think would help your development. And yeah, I think that was pretty much all I wanted to cover today, because that's a lot. And so, but just seek out your community. If you don't know already who your writing community is, seek them out. And it could be something as vague as a national writing community that you find online somewhere, but just to get some different eyes on your work, because that's really, really valuable to have other people look at your work if you haven't done so already. It's important. So we have about 10 minutes left, and I'm just let's open it up to either if you have discussion or questions. This is our community now, so we can talk about writing. Or if you want to talk about your projects, what are people writing these days?
Yes, please feel free to unmute and use this time you have available with Janet.
May I? Ask
yes, Anne, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for this, Janet. It's been very interesting, and I've really enjoyed listening to you speak. Thank you. So I think I'm in a sort of a bit of a stalled phase. I finished my novel last year, and did pay for an editor to look at it and work through it with that, and I'm quite happy with it, although I recognize it may need to be overhauled again, but I would be happy for someone to overhaul it. But I guess I'm sort of in that stalled place. Like, I hear you when you say write your CV. I hear you when you say write the bio, which I think I've written, and I keep, changing it because I feel like I've got really nothing to say about myself. But I haven't yet taken it together and sent it somewhere. Okay. And I suppose one of the things that makes me freeze a bit is the whole online business. I just find that overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that, sending stuff out is a job in itself. Yeah. Getting involved in social media is a job in itself. Yeah. And I barely have time to do the writing that I want to do. So yeah. I guess I feel a little bit stalled, and yet I don't want this thing to just collect dust without ever having tried.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. That's a great question to bring here. I don't know if how extensive your CV is, your literary CV is, but I always say this to novelists. I recommend and I suggest that how would you feel about taking away one of your chapters and using that as a calling card and sending that out to different journals or anthology calls, just to say, and then in your, because then it gives you purpose. It sounds like what you're missing right now is purpose for the writing. The writing wants to go somewhere, but doesn't know where it wants to go or where you want it to go. And so I would say, just to give yourself purpose, or give the writing purpose, consider taking one, look, really focusing on one of those chapters, tweaking it so that it's the shiniest, bestest as possibly can be, and then look at where, in terms of what the themes are in that chapter, or themes that fit you as the writer, and start to send the one chapter out to be published. And that way you can, it starts the ball rolling. That's what it sounds like where you're at. You want to get that ball rolling. And I think this might be a good way to go about it.
I think that's wise advice. And if I can hog a little bit more of your time, I'd like to just add a little bit. So you said you don't know my CV. Well, 25 years ago, before I had a gazillion children, I wrote and I sent stuff out. And as a new writer, I got picked up. So I had a short story published in Grain. I had a short story published in Dandelion. And when Kairos in Hamilton used to publish, I had a short story published there. So that was exciting. Right. And then I had all these kids. And so I've been writing, and I think I'm actually a better writer now than I was 25 years ago. Right. Great. But I haven't had luck yet. Okay. Publishing again. So do I even bother telling people that 25 years ago, somebody took me seriously when I'm not getting that attention now? You absolutely include that. That's your story. What you have just told us now, put that in your intro letter, and make it hilarious like you just did. I had a gazillion kids. Oh my God, this woman had a gazillion kids. She must have been busy, So yeah, absolutely. Tell that intro letter is your introduction to yourself. So tell us, they want to know who is this? Who is this person? Oh, they were writing, they were recognized, and they had some success in the past. And then they took this break. Now they're writing again. Let's see where they're at. And do not feel ashamed or shy about saying, I am a better writer now, because that's what should happen over time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Again, empower yourself, It's like, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Absolutely. Let us know your story. It's an interesting part of your journey, as a writer. Absolutely. Yeah.
Actually, can I just speak to that just for a moment, what Anne was saying? So I started writing again this year quite seriously because I had the time, and I hadn't had the time because of the kids. And I actually wrote an essay. I just sat down, and it's actually called A Much Better Mother When I Write. And the Puritan actually published it, which was great. So I did exactly what Janet said. I just sat down and I wrote about how I couldn't write for so long because I was raising kids. And I put it into kind of a neat format, but I think that's absolutely what we have to do, is write about our truth right now, where we're at now. Yeah. So, but then it's always sad when you get something published and then you get another thing published, and then like a year goes by and nothing, they don't take anything. So it's those highs and lows that we have to write, right? Yeah. Actually, I have a question on that. So I know when we get our things published in the literary journals, that's really great for our CVs, right? But then there's other places online, such as like Medium, or I have a few things published on Elephant Journal online. And I know those don't really hold the literary weight as the journals do, but at the same time, they do extend out to a larger audience, I find, because they are online and you can click and heart and comment and share and right away send them out. So I'm trying to do a little bit of those and then like I'm dividing it. Like my better stories, I feel I'm saving for the literary journals, and then more sort of messages that I want to go out, sort of like 6 writers, 6 tips for writers, or like the easier, fluffier things I send out to the online journals.
Great.
In just to sort of increase my readership or increase my audience somehow.
Yeah.
So that's my.
Oh yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. There's even on the Facebook, there's a group called Calls for Submissions. And that group, it's a whole gamut of things. And you just have to take the time. It's going to cost you your time to kind of rifle through the calls, but and anybody can share a call on there. So, it's really give and take. This is where the generosity of the literary communities really shines through. It's like everybody's sharing, everyone's encouraging everyone else to succeed in that, and you're going to find the right fit there. But yeah, absolutely. In those times when the journals are just like not accepting your work, or you're not finding that your work is fitting within their themes, do not be discouraged. You have these other options now. And that's the great thing about, what we can do in terms of digital publishing is send it out in all these different forms to all these different areas where it can have, a broader readership depending on where it goes. Yeah. And again, like, feel free to create those communities too. Create a Facebook group. It's freaking free, for, local Hamilton, say, hey, here's the group, local Hamilton emerging writers. Boom. There's the group. There's your community,
Well, thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you. Yeah.
And just to before we wrap up, just to that point as well, I think speaking more from the Arts Council's perspective, the Hamilton Arts Council's perspective, all of those things that you're undertaking that may or may not feel or be smaller, to try to keep a track of what that data, or what those for online, what those analytics are, what if I'm sending something, or something's being published by a certain online journal or an online group, what's their approximate reach, how many hundreds or possibly even thousands of people is that being broadcast to, and just tracking that as part of your resume as well, because the granting bodies and the different arts councils and the arts service organizations don't necessarily know all of these platforms, but we can kind of look at we can get a sense from some basic data as to kind of the size or the level at which something is being shared or accessed. So
and thank you, David. That's true. And I forgot to mention contests. Contests can be problematic at sometimes because you have to pay to enter a contest. It's like, which is such BS. But if it does, you can even include that on your CV. Say, I have been submitting, so that at least it shows your activity. Anything that's showing your activity. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've been accepted or you're going to move to the next level of this thing, but just so something that is on paper that documents your involvement in the community, I think is really valuable. Yeah. Okay, are you in Vancouver? I was in Victoria, Dana, for 25 years there. So yeah, that's where I became a writer, actually. I mean, the West Coast has so many writers. As I'm sure you're aware. So great, lots of good opportunities to find community out there for real. Yeah.
David, did you want to mention the Hamilton Literary Awards?
I was just about to round off with 2 announcements. So December the 16th, we'll see the broadcast event of the Hamilton Literary Awards. And again, the Hamilton Literary Awards is an opportunity where all of the finalists will have an opportunity to share an excerpt of their work, which is being broadcast on Cable 14, but everyone can watch along online, so you can find out more about that. The broadcast and the finalists at hamiltonartscouncil.ca /literary-awards, and also for artists or creatives who are functioning in the Hamilton area or Greater Hamilton area. The Arts Council will be launching in December their new digital hub, their arts listing website, which is at www.theartslisting.ca. theartycrowd.ca, and there's a bit of a historical story behind the name of the site, and I will ask maybe Sheila just to pop that link in the chat. There's an opportunity to add your email now, and you will be given an alert when the site goes live. You'll have the ability to upload and control your own profile, upload your own content, and work towards building that community that we all deserve and need in the area. Janet, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. And I'm sure you could be here for hours talking about all of these things. And I look forward to many opportunities in the future to have you come in and share like this, and to work with us on building that community that is so vital to supporting the new and emerging and established writers that are in the area. From here, I'm going to end the recording and just express my sincere thank you again.
Okay.
Oh, but Janet, actually, before we go, was there anywhere that that people could go to find out more about you or your publishing company?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to say that we published our first author this past September. And thank you. And her name is Dawn Cheryl Hill, and she is a member of the Six Nations community. And her book, Memory Keeper, which is a collection of short memoirs, is being very well received out there. It's a collection of stories that have to do with her growing up as a child of residential school survivors, but it's not just that. There's a lot to learn from those stories, but she also includes stories about just growing up in a different time on the res, when it was like going out to play was like finding a tree and hanging out on the branch of that tree, like that was play. Kind of thing, it's just like these charming, hilarious stories about nicknames that are found on the res, and hilarious stories about, because her family is from Tuscarora, New York. And so, there was a time when it was just so easy, a hop, skip, and a jump to head over the border. And she's a social worker, and so she's included these worksheets at the back of the book that if you do get stuck emotionally in some of those stories, there's a resource at the back that you can kind of do some proactive work to help yourself with that. So I'm I'm very proud to have published her, and that was the whole crux of producing the publishing label, was to support the writers here. But as the time goes on and the publishing house expands, I will be looking to work with other writers from outside of the community as well. But that's where we're at right now. So I'll put it in the chat, shall I?
Yes, please, and I will make sure that link is
website.
available.
Yeah, thank you for that, David. Ojistahpublishing.com, basically. And there's samples of my media work, what I do in terms of being an audio poet and a video poet, and a performance poet. So you'll see all of that. And I even, and because of this Instagram story I told you about, that guy finding this great success, I thought, oh shit, now I have to join Instagram. And I did, I joined it reluctantly, but then I started to make like these poetry posters. And so you'll see examples of that on the website there too. And so, you do it on your own terms. You don't have to just feel like you're, being enslaved by this whole, social media thing. Do it on your own terms. And that way it doesn't become so exhausting.
Thank you so much, Janet.
Cheers.